I'll now yield to my good friend, our ranking member, Mr. McGovern, for any remarks he wishes to make.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I want to thank our witnesses for being here on such short notice. This is now our third meeting this week, 1 week before the government shuts down, and we are meeting to consider a rule for 4 appropriation bills, none of which represent even the slightest move towards bipartisanship or attempt to work with Democrats. Yesterday on the floor, I said this was starting to feel like Groundhog Day because we keep doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting a different result. But today, I think this place is starting to feel more like the Twilight Zone. We all know we're hurtling towards a shutdown, yet my friends on the other side of the aisle are terrified, scared stiff by a small handful of extremists in their own conference. It's like we're traveling through another dimension, a dimension not only of sight and sound, but of Republican chaos, a dimension where somehow their leadership claims they don't want to shut down, yet continues and continues to cave to the people who want to shut down. That's a signpost up ahead. What's our next stop? Another failed rule? Look, I know it makes sense to do appropriation bills before government funding lapses, but maybe, just maybe we should have done the work before our August work period. Republican leadership had months to work on and whip these bills, and yet we are just getting around to considering them now, like a few days before a shutdown. The bottom line is that House Republican leaders have brought this chamber to a standstill because of their utter and complete inability to govern. Clearly, the ongoing civil war within the Republican conference has sucked all the air and all the reason out of the room. Democrats can't negotiate with this majority because they're busy negotiating with themselves. They do not have a plan. They do not have a strategy. They are, frankly, just not that good at this. And their chaos and confusion come at a cost, and that cost is a shutdown. A shutdown would be awful for our economy and awful for Americans. I know it would be great for some of my Republican colleagues, and I'm sure it would be also great news for Donald Trump and our foreign adversaries who are rooting for us to fail. It would interrupt federal programs and services that provide millions across the country with vital lifelines. It would disrupt thousands of people's pay, putting pressure on families who might not be able to afford mortgages, to put food on their tables, child care expenses, health care costs, and more. It would hurt our economy, increase unemployment rates, lower GDP, and make it harder to pay down our debt. And yet, nothing we are doing today will help avoid a shutdown. Where is the CR? Where is the reasonable, responsible, bipartisan CR that can pass? None of the extreme draconian cuts in these bills have the broad support needed to pass and become law. Don't take my word for it. Look what's been going on the floor the last few weeks. My friends already tried to pass this exact agriculture appropriations bill out of committee, and then they gave up. I presume because they didn't have the votes to pass it on the floor. Maybe that's because this bill takes food out of the mouths of pregnant mothers and newborns, harms rural communities, and increases energy costs for farmers. My friends already passed the defense appropriations bill out of this committee twice this week alone. During a meeting a couple of days ago, I asked my friends, are you sure? You sure you have the votes this time? And we were told yes. Guess what happened? The rule vote failed again. So I guess I'll ask again, are you really, really very sure? Or are we going to be right back here next week working on these same exact bills? Now, I'm hearing rumors that the only difference between this defense spending bill and the failed bill from earlier this week is slashing aid for Ukraine. I think that's absolutely sick and wrong. I mean, I have actually been to Kiev, met with President Zelensky. I think I may be the only person in this room who has been on the ground in Ukraine and seen what Russia is doing there. President Zelensky was here yesterday, once again explaining how this money isn't a handout. It's in America's interest and the entire world's interest that freedom and democracy prevails. And now we learned that Speaker McCarthy refused President Zelensky's request for a joint meeting of Congress. Given how far some members on the other side of the aisle go to praise Putin and apologize for Russia, I can't say that I'm surprised. And now we are considering 2 new appropriation bills for the first time, Homeland Security and State and Foreign Operations. The State and Foreign Operations Bill abandons American global leadership and completely unravels the hard-fought credibility and influence that we've worked so hard to achieve on the world stage. It's also full of a bunch of MAGA culture war riders. Trying to ban abortion nationwide wasn't enough. Now Republicans want to ban abortion worldwide through the global gag rule. I mean, banning pride flags from flying alongside the American flag at U.S. embassies? I mean, with all the problems in the world, that's what we're focused on? I mean, are you kidding me? And this Homeland Security bill spends billions on a ridiculous and outdated border wall that will do nothing at all to stop illegal border crossings. It cuts funding for terrorism prevention and cybersecurity protection. And I hear my colleagues complain all the time about migrants being released into the United States, yet you're cutting the funding that would be used to process their cases faster. It doesn't make any sense. So we will go through the motions here today, but I plead with my colleagues to choose a different path here. This is nuts. This is an awful, awful, awful process, and it's being used to advance awful, awful, awful bills. Can we please just be honest? These bills are partisan talking points, and we need to get serious. Like yesterday, I said it earlier and I'll say it again, people are fed up with Kevin McCarthy's weak, ineffective, incompetent leadership. It's like every room the speaker goes into is an escape room. He just does whatever he needs to do to get out, even if it means caving to MAGA Republicans every single time. He has one meeting and Ukraine money is in. The next meeting, the Ukraine money is out. Maybe I should ask for a meeting with him. All he does is say yes. Maybe I'll get something I want. But enough already. Let's come together and actually let appropriators on both sides of the aisle write something that can pass in a bipartisan way so we can end this drama and keep the lights on. A week from tomorrow is the date that this government shuts down if we don't do anything. And yet we do not have a continuing resolution. We do not have anything that will avoid that awful outcome. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I yield back my time.
Without